Breaking news, I'm tired. So we're just going to do this one like this. As the legislature wraps up its second full week in the roundhouse, bills are in peril everywhere. The legislators' 10-year-old egos are manifesting in surprising and novel ways. And I'm becoming way too popular with the weirdest people here. Here's an update on the stuff we've talked about already. Last week, we published a video talking about all the various ways legislators are tripping over themselves to really just get in on awesome market-based solutions to solve the literal destruction of the planet. Now, a lot of these bills aren't going to do enough, but some of the bills that might actually do something have passed their first committee. Unfortunately, Big Oil found out. And even though Big Oil was literally in the room in many cases when they were drafting these bills at the expense of actual environmental justice activists, they're still pissing and shitting everywhere. HB 133, the bill that would update the 89-year-old New Mexico Oil and Gas Act, has basically been gutted by different parties in all sorts of different ways. There were three components to this bill. One, to increase penalties on oil companies that don't follow regulation. Another, to create a barrier between oil facilities and places like schools, homes, hospitals, and parks. And a third, to stop oil manufacturers from shooting toxic fumes into the air, which I guess they've just been allowed to do. Well, among all of these, one is still intact. Another, sort of. Exxon and Chevron obliterated the setbacks. Even though a good amount of the fault rests on the people in power, legislators, some of whom might be watching this video right now. And a lot of these legislators are listening to small oil companies who are crying, throwing a fit, etc. because they just don't know how to stop leaking oil into the water. They don't want a little fine because of that. That really hurt. Come on, guys. So the financial penalties might be shrunk dramatically. So now, in true American fashion, the middling bill that already didn't do enough has now been diluted over time to little more than thoughts and prayers that will get them next time, boys. Are you mad about it? Are you mad? Well, a number of legislators are thinking about reintroducing the setback provisions back into HB 133 via amendment. Let them know you want these things at the link on your screen. Now, moving on to a topic that's somehow even nerdier and even more annoying than the one I just talked about. Legislature modernization. Two pieces of legislation currently exist to bring one of the laggiest legislatures in the country into the 21st century. There's HJR 5, which would make every session every year 60 days long and remove the barrier on what can be considered in each of those years. HJR 7, which would create a commission to study how much legislators should be getting paid. They both cleared their first committees, and if they were eventually signed by the governor, the final decision for both of them would rest with voters in the November election. Except the Senate isn't gonna like this. The Senate doesn't like anything. You know that really weird analogy you had to learn in school about the house being from Mars and the Senate being from Venus?
Why did you pour your tea from your cup into the saucer?
That's the Senate, or the saucer that cools what's in the cup.
The Senate is generally a lot more conservative than the House. They have larger districts with a larger ideological range, and so their voting records tend to be a lot more centrist. Modernizing the legislature is often seen as a liberal or even left liberal leaning objective because it's giving more money to the government, which I guess makes sense. Historically, the government has spent a lot of money on bad shit, but sometimes that money is used for good, like ensuring that an actual working class Alma Gordon is representing your actual needs and interests instead of this guy who seems to just spend his free time retweeting Elon Musk and talking about how the NFL is woke. Paying legislators would get us closer to an actually representative democracy instead of whatever it is that we have right now. Lengthening the span of a session would allow people to take on more issues and deal with them more substantively and effectively than they can once for 30 days every year. We, specifically the nonprofit organization I'm employed by, as well as myself, want you to call these guys. We want you to email them, especially your senators, because a lot of these bills can get passed. There's a lot of cynicism and a lot of blackpilling. Conservative forces want you to think that everything is doomed because that's easier than actually dealing with your real opinion. It's understandably really hard to believe that your voice has any impact, especially when it comes to federal politics. But state politics are a very different story, and New Mexico politics are f***ing crazy. We have 18 times the influence of a California. Guess which state is producing more oil? So get on with your bad self and contact these guys today. Thank you for your time, and I'm gonna go back to nursing my headache.